Uh, we are one of the sponsors of the meeting, along with the Small Business Development Centers, the U.S. Small Business Administration, and the Minnesota Chamber. Today's topic will be on social media marketing, and we are joined today by Art and Paul with the uh, MB Mentors. And with no further ado, we'll go right to Paul. So, Paul, kick it off, and I will put the spotlight on you.
Thank you. Well, actually, I'm gonna turn it over to Art to
Let's go to
provide
Art
an
then. Sure.
Okay.
initial commercial. So Art, take it
Yeah,
away.
there you go. I want to thank Mark and Maddie and the rest of the team at D for giving us this time today to present and just give you a little bit of background about MB Mentors. MB stands for Minnesota Business Mentors. We are a 40-member, self-funded, all-volunteer nonprofit. We started in March of 2020, and we offer those five free services that you see up there on the screen. Number one being one-on-one confidential mentoring and coaching. Our members are current and former business owners, CEOs, executives who donate their time and expertise to help anyone requesting our assistance. Number two is that we offer business plan support and guidance. We do that for both lean and traditional business plans. We use LivePlan software, which is at no cost to our clients. It's about a $280 savings. The other thing we do, things like today we're doing today, free webinars and workshops. We do over 50 of those a year at no charge on topics of interest to entrepreneurs, small business owners. Most of the programs are done by our volunteers, not consultants, people with deep knowledge of the subject matter, and nobody's going to try to sell you anything. Our website also has a small business resource area with links, white papers, articles, and more to help businesses. It's divided into 12 areas, including starting a business, marketing, sales, finance, operations, HR, AI, etc. So all there, all on one site for you to be able to access. The other thing we do is our Women's Collective Lab, and this is done by our women volunteer mentors for women in business. It's a virtual networking and discussion program. The first event of 2026 is this Friday at 11 a.m. And if you're interested, you can register on a website at mbmentors.org. The topic for this Friday is how to craft a business pitch using today's tools, meaning AI. And the last service you see there is the only one that we charge for, and that is our CEO Roundtable Forums. These are for second stage businesses, meaning between $1 and $50 million in revenue and more than 10 full-time employees. These are monthly 3-hour in-person meetings facilitated by us. We currently have 6 tables, and we're starting a new one soon in Bloomington. So with that, I'll turn it over to Paul Richardson, who's been a member with us for over 5 years and one of our marketing mentor coaches. So Paul?
Great. Thank you. Thanks, Art, and thanks, Mark and Maddie as well. And good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining us. I understand we're here to talk about algebra and trigonometry for small business. Is that, or no, that's not right. It's social media marketing for small business. Um, so I understand that this was a topic that everybody on the call was very interested in having somebody speak about that. So hopefully I can provide a little bit of an overview. We'll have a few slides, but we'll make this very casual. And if you have questions, feel free to put them in the chat, or else we can certainly address questions towards the end. Um, and I should have asked this before, so we're prepared. But Mark or Maddie, hopefully, if there's a way we can share slides afterwards, I can send you the slide deck if you want to share the slides with the attendees.
Absolutely. Yeah, we do record the meetings, and I will throw the link back up on the in the chat. Yep. Hmm.
Okay, great. So, of course, we're talking about social, media. First of all, what's social media? And so by that we mean the web-based platform that many of us use every day to connect and interact with others online. And but then social media marketing, what we're here to talk about specifically, is the process of how do you create tailored content to drive engagement via social media with the end result of achieving business goals. So I see we've got a lot of questions already. Oh, So some people are having audio issues.
A little bit.
Can you guys hear me okay, or what?
It just seems like you are just a little bit quieter, but I think for the most part, it seems fine.
Okay. Well, I'll try to speak up a little bit. So,
Perfect.
all right. Um, let's see. Where were we? Let me get rid of this.
I'm talking about what social media is. Yep.
Yeah. So why do we care about social media marketing? So, well, first of all, it's just the numbers are huge. So there's probably by as of this meeting, 5 billion or so active social media users worldwide. So that's more than double the number of users that there were 10 or 11 years ago. And users spend 2.5 hours a day on social media. So it's a big part of our lives.
Yikes.
And how it ties in is what I like to call the rule of seven, which is does anybody here like being sold to? I mean, I think most of us we don't like really having a salesperson sell us something, right? We like to buy things. Most of us like to buy and shop. But what the rule of seven says is, related to that a buyer needs to have at least 7 interactions with your brand before they're ready to make a purchase. And some people might say that's it's more like 5 to 20 interactions at least. So to build up that credibility. So what are those types of interactions? Kind of fall into 4 broad categories, sort of like a Venn diagram of paid, earned, shared, and owned types of interactions that you might have, various touch points. So what are they? Um, Owned media, those are things that you can own and control. Your product itself, your own packaging, your own website, the things that you build, you didn't have to you can do and create on your own and aren't controlled by others. There's some things that we're going to see some overlap. So things like search engine optimization, you control what the effort you put into that, but you don't necessarily control the output of what that results for you. Paid media, so those are things we're familiar with, sort of traditional advertising, print, and online television, digital advertising, and so all the things that you might pay somebody else to run for you, that's paid media. And there's going to be some things like lead generation, email. That's a little bit of an overlap between owned and paid. You might generate your own content, but then the email list, what have you, things you might pay for. Now, working around the circle, there's event and experiential marketing that gets into the earned category of, what earned media traditionally we thought of as public relations. You're getting media coverage. You don't pay for it, but you speak with a reporter. You get somebody to do a news story about your business. And then there's things like community engagements, like just like what we're doing here today is speaking in front of a group. We might do things like brand partnerships where you're working with other brands. And finally, shared, just purely shared things such as organic social media, which is sort of the main topic that we're here today to talk about. What all of these do is at the center of this diagram is create sales enablement. So again, it's not like there's any one of these, but the mix of 7 to 20 touch points that will get you that point of credibility and trust with your audience, where you're seen as somebody like, oh yeah, I feel comfortable talking to somebody about this and maybe making a purchase in this space. So that's social media is one of the important ways you can start adding up those 7 to 20 touch points. So why do we want to invest in social media? So just a few quick bites here. So 90% of marketers believe in social media. They say it's increased their business's exposure. 40% of customers report spending more money on brands that have interacted with them on social media. 71% of consumers who have a positive experience with the brand on social are more likely to recommend the brand So referrals, testimonials to friends and family. And finally, 77% of consumers prefer to make purchases from a company where the executives are active on social media. So, uh, you can find other talking points. I saw one today that 84% of consumers make part of their business decision at least by interacting on social media. So it is one of those touch points that's becoming a necessity for for businesses and especially small business because it provides an opportunity to start to build your brand, establish relationships, and ultimately to sell your product. So what we'll talk through is, like, okay, well, how do I get started as a small business, or maybe I have started and I need to improve. Uh, we're going to go through the what I like to say is the top 10 tips for small business and how what I recommend to my own clients as to how to get started. And number one, like with any marketing or business initiative, really should begin with the end in mind. And it should begin with what you're trying to accomplish and how you're going to define and measure success. So that's, very important to make sure everybody's aligned with that before you start, um, posting something on social media. So what are those topics where those goals could be? Well, most of us think like, well, I want to sell something. Well, that's part of it, but there's also topics that you can engage with around a few other areas. The first is just listening. Is before you start doing anything on your own, is listening, researching, diagnosing, understanding what's going on. So start by listening, create an account, or if you don't already have one, and start to listen, research the market, what's already out there on social media regarding your topic. Who else is out there? What are the competitors? What are they saying? Um, and what are people talking about is, just not even just in general that are gaps or opportunities that your business might be able to take advantage of. So first of all, what are your listening goals? Second, then is like, well, what sort of influencing goals do you have? Maybe you want people, before they buy anything, just to visit your website or increase the awareness of your business or of your product. How are you going to influence the public to be aware and to take some action? Third might be then that selling. Okay, so what are the things around selling that are relevant for your customer value journey? It might be things like generating leads or building lists, or maybe just having links out there to start to make new purchases or cross sell and upsell existing purchases, maybe increasing the frequency and you can of purchases. And these are all things that you can help influence via social. And then finally, what about networking? How can are you going to find people out there to build partners with? Maybe media members, maybe distributors, maybe other strategic partners. So again, these are just different categories, maybe not have thought of, but all the categories that you might set a goal around or one or more goals around. And then finally, in terms of goals, make sure that you're not just setting generic goals, but set SMART goals. And I think most of us are familiar with that. But just to recap, a SMART goal is one that is an acronym for specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time bound or time specific. So a not SMART goal would be something like, well, I want to increase my social media followers. Pretty generic. A smart way of doing this would be to say, I want to generate, X number of engagements from my LinkedIn posts by X date, December 31st, let's say. So is it specific? Yes. Is it measurable? Okay, I have a way of knowing how many engagements I've got. Is it attainable? Is it realistic? I hope so. Is it relevant for my business? Yes, I think so. And does it have a time element to it? So make sure you're setting those SMART goals. Second, then, is begin before we're even getting started thinking about where or what to post, is really understanding your audience, because understanding your audience is how you're going to craft your content. And most of us are familiar with the idea of a target market or a segment. And let's say it's I'm looking for urban homeowners ages 35 to 50 living in these zip codes or these areas. That's your target market or segment. A persona, however, is a semi-fictional um, story about description of one particular person within that segment. So it's a way of personalizing and understanding what that segment looks like. So I like to start by giving that persona a name and maybe grab a photo off the internet, again, trying to keep this, fictional, but based on reality. So you base this um, persona then on your knowledge of your market, your research, talking to people, surveys you might do, what have you, but understanding your audience. And so I won't go through all of this, but we'll have the slides passed out. But it's going to include things like the background. And I'll also, one caveat, this persona is a little bit geared more for a B2B business. But if you have a B2C business, there most of the questions are going to be the same, and it's the principle holds pretty true as well. So what's the background? How long have they been with this particular company in this type of role? What are their demographics in terms of just the basics of gender and age, income, geography, things like that? And then start to get into some more softer attributes like, well, what are their communication preferences or their work style? Do you know their work style, score, things like that? And, what are their likes and dislikes? Next, let's get into, things related to their job and what their goals are. So both maybe their business goals, maybe they have a personal goal, such as, wanting to move ahead at their job or change roles, things like that. And what specific challenges do they have that are related, to addressing those goals and how big are they? So the rest of the persona is going to get into building on this. So what are the sources that the buyer is likely to use? Some quotes around how this challenge affects them at work and what their perceptions are, key purchase drivers, ultimately building towards what we can do and how to what types of messages, not just for social media, but for really, this is important for understanding your market segment, your personas overall, ultimately leading up to the key marketing messages that would be best suited for addressing this particular buyer's challenges and objections. So depending on your business, you might have different segments, but even within a segment, you might need to build more than one persona to reflect different people. But it's an important step to really understand that if you haven't already done, because understanding your persona is going to impact the rest of how you engage with social and other marketing venues. So number three, this is going to help you lead into what platforms are right. There's literally thousands of platforms out there. So it's important not to get overwhelmed and don't feel like you have to engage with all of them. So if you're just getting started, start with a critical few. It might just be one, maybe one or two that are appropriate for your business. And by appropriate, it's going to depend on what type of business that you run. Are you more of a business to business type of business, or are you selling to consumers? Are you selling to consumers directly or through distributors? Are you a nonprofit? Are you more of a employee focused service or what have you? So we're going to look at a few platforms today that range, from social platforms that people might use more for social versus ones that they might use more for business. And this is a loose continuum. And really, there's a lot of overlap between the platforms. Some of the most popular sites, and this is already almost a year old, but growing. The numbers are just tend to grow steadily, especially towards the bottom of the list as some of these really start to pop up. And we're going to go through most of these. Facebook, of course, is still the granddaddy, still has the most monthly users, and but followed by some of these others. So let's go oh, and one more slide here before we get into them is just the percent of adults who say they ever use the following platforms. So you can see here from this, more people have ever used YouTube, but Facebook still has the most enrolled, accounts, users on it. So let's start with Facebook. So as I mentioned, oops, sorry, the most popular social media platform, and built primarily to share content with your friends and family. So you sign up yourself, you connect with your friends and families and others. You might also do things like or follow business topics. And so the way to use this is as a business is to create your own page on that. And in particular, this is going to be a helpful platform for if you have a consumer product. So for B2C, you can use Facebook to drive traffic to your business, to engage with and speak with your users and customers, to promote events and products. And you might start by sharing photos and video and updates and news and surveys and questions, and by engaging in other groups related to your business on that as well. On the downside, the cons of Facebook is by being the largest, it's good, but it also means there's a lot of clutter. There's a lot of other content out there. And so it means to really take advantage of it, you're going to have to, pay to play, so to speak. So you might need to do not just organic or free, types of content, but you might need to boost that content, do some advertising as well to get more eyeballs on your site. So the other issue with Facebook is being around for as long as it is. It's sometimes seen as a little bit old school as well. So the kids, in other words, started migrating even a decade ago to other platforms, and we'll kind of talk through some of those as well. The flip side, LinkedIn is a site that would be used primarily for B2B, for business type companies. So LinkedIn is started as its main purpose and mission is a networking and job searching site. So it's where we go to sort of post our personal resumes, particularly if you're looking for new jobs, but also for people looking for new clients, and for businesses, certainly looking to engage with other businesses in their market. Uh, LinkedIn has about 800 million users worldwide. So keep in mind when you're talking about the number of users, not just US based, but more than 75% of LinkedIn users come from outside the US. But one of the nice things about LinkedIn, you can be very segmented about what you do. So you can create and share things like once you've created your business page, like this is my past client of mine. I shouldn't say past; they're still a client. A business page that can share their case studies, infographics, photos and videos, statistics, any business updates they might have. And you can, if you want to get in front of more people, as I mentioned before, like by boosting that content or advertising, you can do it in a very targeted way because LinkedIn has when you sign up, it has a lot of gleaned information about the names and titles and companies and geography and level of the individuals. So you can really start to target and build very targeted lists and targeted um, advertising that you might do on that. So um, so great tool for B2B. The only downsides I might say is so you need to build both your personal page to get started and then your business page. So you need to set that up. Doesn't take long, but setting up your business page and then make sure on LinkedIn that you stick to business related topics. Other social, you might get into more other topics, food and sports and politics and whatnot. LinkedIn likes to stay focused primarily on business related topics. Here's an example of some content that you might boost. So, like might get a post, you might put your post out there, and then you check back a few hours or a day later to see like, oh, I only got like 100 impressions, meaning my post only appeared in, say 100 users in their feed as they were scrolling by, and that's the impression. Well, you didn't pay anything for that, but you didn't get much for it. If you want to get in front of more users, LinkedIn will say, "Hey, would you like to get this in front of 1,000 more people? For $50 or what have you." They'll hook you up with trying to get in front of more and more people. And again, the nice thing about LinkedIn is the ability to target those impressions. Um, so X, or formerly known as Twitter, certainly is one of the most talked about platforms. Um, it's a microblogging site, so famous for when it started was you only had 140 characters to tell, to make a comment. That's increased over time, so you do have the ability to share a bit more content, but it's still focused on kind of quick hits, and then sharing content around things like tips or fun facts or quotes, daily topics, again, case studies. But what I would say is for small business, it's probably not necessarily the first place I would recommend getting started. For large businesses, yes, and a lot of times people will go, if they have a complaint or a question, they're not going to go to your customer support line. They're going to they might go to X or other social media and ask your customer service there, or start talking about bad service or what have you. Large companies have the teams and bandwidth to be able to support that, but for smaller companies, um, you might want to choose one of the other platforms to get started first. That said, it's great for listening and for engage, for kind of, hearing what other people are talking about and seeing how big companies are operating, and maybe you can pick up some ideas from that as well. One thing you can do on X, like you can on most of the other platforms as well, is retweet or repost other content. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later, but you might find something that you like. And for example, my client is a Matterport certified provider. So Matterport's the big company, they churn out a lot of content. And then their providers, small businesses like my client, can take that content, repost it, add their own spin to it, or their own, click here to visit our website. And it's a quick way of adding getting your message out by riding on the shoulders of other content. Instagram. So Instagram is owned by Facebook. It's one of the largest and fastest growing sites. It's very much based on photo and video. And I should have said this before, but really, when you develop your content, you should be thinking, very much along the lines of photo and video. And this is a friend of mine, the Axeman. If any of you have visited Axeman stores, but they're a very not just a visual store, but a very sort of have to see it in person to touch and feel and hear things as well. So it's a great channel for Instagram because they've got their quirky brand identity that you see in the stores, and they can express that on Instagram as well with some of the things that they share. So it's great for product information, sharing. You might want to share events, do some advertising there as well, and it's great for focusing on younger followers. YouTube is something that we don't always think of as social media, but it is the world's largest site for video hosting and sharing. It's also the world's second largest search engine and second most visited website overall. So it's owned by Google. It's tied in with your Google login, what have you. And so you can use it for your video library. And then you can embed those videos in your websites and your social media, etc. And you can do some advertising to, drive people to your videos or to your sites. So it's great for things like, how-to videos or product reviews or testimonials, case studies. But on the downside is people don't tend necessarily to go there to discover brands. So they might feel like, well, I'm here for entertainment. It's not where I go necessarily to engage, with business. But that said, it's certainly something to make sure that's part of your arsenal. Um, Pinterest is another very visual-based social media. 431 million active monthly users, primarily female. Most of the others that we looked at were, more of an even split male and female. But a little bit of it started with a little bit of a mom stereotype to their users, but that's evolved, and so certainly a lot of Gen Z and millennials that have Pinterest accounts as well. So people share their pins and their boards, of around a particular topic of interest. So if you have very highly visual products, B2C products, it can be a great way of driving traffic to your site, maybe gaining followers and subscribers, things like that. Um, TikTok. So when I first started this, I think TikTok was barely scratching the surface. And 5 years later, it's one of the, it's certainly grown. It's one of the largest platforms. It's a short form video site and very popular with younger audiences. It so it's great for, especially B2C products again, aimed at younger people, uh, because it's a way of showing that you are, sharing their culture, that you're young and hip like them, and that it's a great way to get in front of those. There's been ongoing questions about the future of TikTok, who owns it. Is it going to be banned, not banned? I don't think it's going to be banned anytime soon in this country, but there have been those questions ongoing. So this is a good point to talk about using influencers with your social media, and in particular because once or twice a year I get to have dinner with a social media influencer, an actress and a model, a 20-year-old actress and model. Know before you start, thinking I'm being scandalized here. She's the daughter of one of the best friends of our family, and so she's based here in Minnesota. But Ava Justin has 1.5 million followers on TikTok, which makes her, I think they call it a mega influencer. Not the largest, some of the largest have like upwards of 10 million followers. But if you want to get in front of a lot of followers, you can go to an agency, find an influencer, and like Ava, and they will do videos or they'll talk about your product. Um, on TikTok, she's got 1.5 million. On Instagram, she's got I think a little over 500,000 or 566,000 followers. And so for those levels, you might trying to get in front of that many people, you might spend $5,000 to $10,000 on a influencer. So is that a good investment for your business? It could be if, based on the targeting, trying to get in front of the right audiences. Okay, just a couple more here. Snapchat, we won't talk too much about that, but again, it's a great way of getting in front of younger audiences, and especially with want to be take part in a trend. If you're very trend conscious, it's a great way to get in front, raise brand awareness of your brand, and establish credibility with younger audiences. And finally is people don't always think of it, but make sure you're using Google My Business if you haven't already. So sign up for a free account. It's a free tool that manages your presence, and it's a very important for your making sure customers can find you, but also it helps improve your search engine optimization ranking. It's a great way of responding and seeing customer feedback. You have to be careful. Once people know you're out there, you might see negative feedback, but it's better that you're aware of it and then can address it in real time. So make sure you've signed up for Google My Business. What's the best platform for you? It really depends again, and so just based on who your audience is, what you're trying to achieve, and the goals that you set earlier. So, okay, so uh, what's the rest of our top 10? So one is just listen. Make sure your customers find out what they're thinking about, what your competitors are doing, and join groups related to your product or audience. So things like your brand name and product names, industry buzzwords, what your competitors are doing, and so forth. Next, create your brand voice. So, your brand voice is the distinct personality your business takes on in online communication. So, just like you've got a visual identity, hopefully, of your logo and your fonts and your color scheme and the images you use and so forth, the brand voice is going to be the personality your business takes on. So, think about your company values, your audience, adjectives that describe your product. Are you more traditional or contemporary, old school or cool, etc.? A common question a lot of us have heard before is, if my brand were a car, what type of car would it be? So from that, you can those types of questions, you can start to build your brand voice and then start to create value or provide value for your audience using that voice. So use what we like to call the 70-20-10 rule, which means that of of 10 pieces of content that you might post, only 1 or 10% of that should be self-promotional, very, visit my website, buy now type of content. 20% should be content that you might curate and share from other sources, like we were reposting from Matterport before. And 70% should be engagement that builds your brand without selling. So you're offering your opinion on things. You're just sort of engaging and being seen as a thought leader, but without overtly selling. You still might have a link to your website, things like that. That's cool, but make sure that for every one piece of content that's very salesy, that you've got 9 other pieces of content on average that are more educational and informational. Uh, Number 7, be visual. So, Facebook tells us that the average Facebook text post gets 1.44% engagement. And wait a minute, I'm already bored with this. Be visual. So use great photography, use animation, use video. And oh, here's that same data. Now it says that, oh, for Facebook, video is 4 times more powerful and impactful than text-based posts. So make sure that you're thinking visually. Also, make sure you're thinking not just in terms of screens and monitors, but also mobile devices. Be very mobile and make sure everything that you're doing looks and is appropriate for a mobile audience as well. Uh, Number 8, develop a calendar. So think about this, plan this out in advance. Don't just wing it, but make sure that you've got a plan for each month, maybe as far as how you're going to schedule and how you're going to who you're going to talk to before you start developing that content and publishing and scheduling. And to do that, there are tools that you can use to do that. Um, the big three are things like called Hootsuite and HubSpot and Sprout Social. So there are big tools that might charge a bit, but there are also some less expensive tools that you might find out as well that can help you develop content, that can help you schedule your posts. So you don't have to, you can maybe pick one day a month where you put everything and schedule it and then track your results and see what's happening. And then number 10, don't try to do it all yourself. So avoid spreading yourself too thin. Focus on 1 to 2 platforms to get started, and then leverage support if you can. Maybe employees, interns, family members, freelancers, what have you. And one more resource, one more tip, and a bonus tip and a bonus resource is AI. So leverage AI, to develop your content. So there are various tools that you can use for free to get started, and it can help develop the content, schedule it, post it, provide images, provide analytics. Um, just be careful when you're using AI. So AI is, it's evolved very rapidly. It's doing much better than it was, even, every 6 months it's improving, every month even, but it still tends to make stuff up. So be careful about that. Make sure you proofread, double check things, and make sure you give it robust prompts so you get the best content back for your business. So to recap, here's our top 10 or 11 tips. And the good thing about social media is it's a pretty popular topic. So if you go searching, social media, best practices for small business, you're going to find a lot of resources out there. Here's a quick, curated list of what's out there. And another resource is the MB Mentors website. So you can go there as well. And so there's a link here for what we have on related to marketing and social media. So that said, just one last plug for MB Mentors. We do have some upcoming programs. As Art mentioned, our women's collective I hope that's not an omen, on Friday the 13th, but we've got the Women's Collective Lab. And then next week, Selling Basics. And after that, Lean Business Planning. And you can find out more information and register for all of these at mbmentors.org/webinars. Sorry, I know we went through a lot, but are there any questions?
Thanks, Paul. I would hope so. Give people a second here to see if they'll throw some in the chat, or if they'll just raise their hand. I mean, you can unmute yourself and certainly do that. I'm grabbing the link for the social media section of your website, throwing that in the chat.
I have a question. We're planning an e-commerce retail website at the moment and don't have much marketing experience. The next phase in our plan is kind of figuring out how to market this nationally to get our products. Do you have any advice on, is it just going through, Instagram's mostly what we're using? Is it just going through Instagram's pay advertising, or are there any other ways to get our brand out on a national market?
Yeah, thanks for the question. So my first recommendation is that would be a great topic for engaging with MB Mentors and getting started with us and having a free mentor that you can work with and talk about. Because to answer the question, it takes a little bit more diagnosing before prescribing, right? To understand more about the product and the service and the audience and so forth. And from there, then you can start to kind of work together. What sort of resources do we need to figure this out? And what's going to be the best, venues for doing that? So it's a great type of question that, and why MB Mentors exist is we're here to help, cultivate and incubate, a new generation of small businesses to help them on their way. I see the
Cool.
question about, do we have
Thank you.
demographics on each of the social media? And yes, so when I share the slides after the slides that I share will have the numbers around the various demographics on each of the social content platforms.
Great. Paul, I had a quick question. How is WhatsApp social media?
How is WhatsApp social?
Yeah,
It's so I use it for groups, that it's a way of
sure.
chatting with others.
Okay.
There's
Okay.
businesses out there that'll try to advertise and whatnot along the way as well. So it's based on the broad definition of what's considered social. It's where people go to comment and share, and so I've got a couple of groups that.
Okay. Great. Great. Thanks, Maddie's throwing in our digital toolbox resource. And then also Mandy put in a plug there for Facebook ads. A related question I had, Paul, and maybe businesses had thought about that. If you have a presence on Instagram, and then you decide maybe I will switch over to Facebook, and then maybe I'll go to LinkedIn. If you have a presence on one, is it a negative connotation if you don't have a presence after a while? So what I'm saying is, do you start like once you start on one, do you have to like keep adding to one and all of a sudden you're on you're on six social media streams and then it's like, oh shoot, I don't need all of these. So does a non-presence after a while have a negative connotation?
I don't know if it has a negative connotation. I mean, I think there are people that will notice that, like, oh, you have this account, but you haven't posted anything here for a few years. I guess it could be negative, and people find you, they might assume that you're not, yeah, are you still in business or what's going on
Okay.
if you're not that active. So in some cases, it might be better just to, remove the account. But again, with
Okay.
small business, and if you're just getting, started, that's why I say it's best to have one or two that you can be engaged with. And even if it's once a month or what have you, but just to have that steady presence, so that
Okay.
versus trying to do, don't do too much. Don't try to do it all yourself or do too much
All
all
right.
at once.
So a another related question with that, and I'm sure as a user, how do you battle algorithms when say you're on Instagram, it's like, oh, all of a sudden this topic comes up, and then all of a sudden I'm seeing this feed of all this stuff. So how do you mentor people, business owners, where maybe your business comes up, and all of a sudden people say, you know, I used to see you in my feed, and then you I don't see you anymore. How do you battle that, or how do you deal with that?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's kind of ever evolving in terms of the algorithms. But what I would say is it's like SEO. It's more of a journey. It's about having a steady online
Okay.
presence that's building up your own credibility, and by engaging and by being seen as a thought leader. And to do that, you need to like engage in various groups. You need to comment on things and just have that steady presence. When I'm on LinkedIn, or even if I'm not on LinkedIn on my phone, it's always popping up, posts uh, you know, from a lot of the same people that I engage with. I see their content; it's relevant,
Okay.
to a particular topic. That might mean that there's others who I'm not seeing. Either I'm not seeing their posts, or maybe because they're not posting, or maybe because they're not, as steady, influencers, in that space. So if you
Yeah.
can, get to that point, and it's like I said, like people like to engage with businesses where the owner themselves are kind of active in doing this, and I've kind of
Okay.
seen that where people like engaging with that.
Good point.
Paul, we have a question in the chat from Rebecca. I'm going to turn this into a two-parter. So Rebecca wants to know how many times per week should you post? I usually go for 3, but maybe it's too much. So first of all, how many times a week do you recommend posting on most platforms? And also, do you have recommendations for like any systems or workflows that small business owners can use so social doesn't have to like take up their whole week?
Well, great, thank you. So as far as how much is too much, you know, it's gonna it's gonna vary or depend. I'm not sure if it's if it ever really could be too much. Three. I mean, if you have the bandwidth to be creating that type of content, if you're trying to, again, you don't want this to be all consuming, but if you've got somebody who can generate good quality content and you can do that 2 or 3 times a week, I'd say, yeah, absolutely, that's great. And it's creating your own content. It's commenting on other people and sharing what's going on with others. That can be great. For some people, that might be more than they can bite off uh, to get started. So if you can get started with once a week or every couple of weeks, that's going to be better than zero. So don't try to bite eat the element all in one bite. Elephant all in one bite. Keep um, just keep steady at it. Uh, the second, remind me, the second part of the question was
Yeah. Do you have any recommendations for like any systems or
system.
workflows? Like, I mean, Sprout, Hootsuite, or just, I don't know. Like I said, any general
Well,
workflows to make this a little easier of a lift.
yeah, I mean, the first thing I would do after this call is ask search engine or AI, like what are the best workflows that I might use. Now, like the ones I mentioned are going to be very robust and they have different price points for how you can different plans as far as for different sizes of business. So if you've got a particular budget in mind that you can spend on this, you're going to find tools that don't necessarily do everything that the big ones do, but they can provide that way of getting started, getting organized, or even ask AI to develop a free template for me or free system for how we can get started on this. Um, so that'd be the first place I would recommend getting started.
Thanks. Someone else wants to know if you have any recommendations for a program for creating videos or editing videos for beginners.
Um, Good question. I mean, I trying to think. I use a free video editor myself. Like I used to do a lot more videos, and then I've been working with companies and whatnot that have video production in house, so I haven't done as many. But you can certainly there are a lot of free tools out there for for editing videos without knowing too much about it. For beginners, you might start with just what's built into, if you use Windows, and the Microsoft products that are built into Windows are pretty basic but pretty easy to use editors as well for just for getting started. But there are others that you can use as well. Again, with a search.
Sounds good. Yeah, a lot of
Better
people are
to describe.
recommending
Yeah, I use
Canva for
OpenShot is the
phones.
one I use. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Any other questions from the chat? Have you ever had any clients post online and go viral? If so, what's something notable that you noticed?
If I had, I'm trying to think of what the most viral post is, but that certainly is the goal, is to create. I think, well, one good example wasn't my client, but um, one local one very viral about 5 years ago was the drone video of the bowling alley. And
Oh
uh,
yeah.
and
Yep.
so what it was the first, it was very early days of somebody using, this was a drone video company, but that
Oh,
was able to
yeah.
produce this, but using first person flight. Like I've got a drone, I bought at Costco that you fly with controllers, right? But this is first person flying. So like when you're flying the drone, you kind of can see where you're going and can zoom in and out as if you were flying the drone yourself. And so they're able to go like right down the alley through the pins and through the back room and whatnot and zoom around. Became a very very viral, cool video. So why did it go viral? I mean, it was the cool factor, right? It was like something new technology, kind of new this to it, that something that hadn't nobody else had done yet. So after that, like people started like doing more of that, and people, and everybody asked me like, oh, can you do that? And it's like, not unless I buy a, $5,000 drone with the first person
Yeah.
technology or what have you. But
Awesome. Okay. If there are no more questions, I'm going to hand it back to Mark to wrap things up for us.
Sure. There is a question though on your business plan, the lean business plan. Looks like is that canceled? Do you know, Paul, off the top of your head?
Art answered it in the chat. There was
Oh,
the
gotcha.
link.
Gotcha.
The
Yeah,
link
there
will
was
be
an
updated.
issue. There was an issue with the link. It's now updated. Thanks for
Perfect.
thanks for checking that.
Perfect. Let's do this. Add a spotlight on me, Paul, so it doesn't need to be always on you. Yeah, we will wrap it up. Paul Paul, I took the spotlight off you. I really appreciate that. Here, I will actually help remove it from you. Super informative. There's some things I certainly, absolutely. Uh, there we go. Thanks everybody for joining us. Had well over 100 people today. Um, I know we had one question. Is this going to be a basics? Is this kind of a webinar? If you have more questions, certainly connect with MB Mentors. They offer a lot, as Paul was talking and I was listening. They offer a ton of resources on their website. They will certainly be more used by me, and I'm sure by Maddie and my other colleague Melody, as a resource for us to share with people about business plans. I mean, things in here, pitch decks, all kinds of things. So again, thanks for joining us. In the chat, I threw in, we have a different topic for March about a child care credit. Again, we have recorded the meeting, and Paul will share with us the presentation slides. We'll have that up on our site at the DEED website and under get help from our experts, or so it's going to be the small business assistance site, and then it's under the small business calls. So we'll have all this information there along with Paul's great slides. So thanks for joining us, everybody. Appreciate it. See you next month.